Podcasts, they exist, and it feels like they've taken the world by storm over these last few years, really. Today I want to talk about every tool that I use to successfully run an at-home podcast setup. Before we get into that, I'm Isaac, entrepreneur, podcaster, content creator, based here in Ames, Iowa. I've been uploading weekly podcasts for about 30 weeks now. From right here, I talk to fellow entrepreneurs, creatives, friends, just about what they're doing, what's inspiring them, what's on their mind, in hopes that it generates ideas for me, as well as generates more ideas for them. And more importantly, it just gives you an insight on people going after what's in their heads, creatively, ideas-wise, or whatever. So that's the basis of that. Definitely check it out if you want to. Back to the logistical side of podcasts. Every normal person's argument is podcasts, not everyone needs them. I do understand that complaint, but I just look at worst case scenario of running your own podcast. The absolute worst case scenario of a podcast is you learn a new skill, you have a good conversation with someone. It's not a bad worst case. And if you do it consistently, you got a good conversation every week. You get to connect with the person more, as well as who they know. And a more connected world is a more fun world, because it's always fun knowing people, and it's just great. It's worked really well for me. There's my 2 cents on podcasts. Now let's talk about what tools I use. Let me read them off right now. Online tools I use: Riverside FM, Adobe Audio Enhance, Adobe Premiere Pro, Spotify for Podcasters, which was formerly called Anchor, as well as Opus Clip. Today I'm just going to be briefly talking about each one of those tools. There's just going to be better videos on the internet that you can dive into each tool. I could try to go through it all in one video, but I'm going to miss steps, and there's better videos out there for you. This is also not the only way to do it. This is just the way that I've found success in, and the way I'm able to generate a podcast once a week the fastest possible way ever. So there we go. First tool is Riverside FM. Riverside FM is what I use to record my podcast. It is like your voice call. It's like a Zoom or a Google Meet or a Discord or a phone call or whatever. The only difference about this one is it's made to record your conversations online. What I like about it is when you press record, it records both of your local files. So if the bandwidth gets messy in the middle of the podcast, it'll lower the quality of the video feed online, but it's still recording locally, so you'll never lose your recording definition of your webcam, which is really nice. They're always innovating. Like, there's little other features that I don't use quite yet, but it's made to record podcasts with, which a lot of our other tools we speak with aren't made for that. There's a really good website that you could run it off of, or if you're on the go, you could do it on your phone. You can record your podcast from there too. So either way, it's a beautiful thing. Riverside FM, look into it. That is how I record. Tool number 2, once I get it through Riverside FM, I put it through a tool called Adobe Audio Enhance. Adobe is the company that makes the Adobe Creative Suite, which includes Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Premiere Pro, Lightroom, After Effects, all that stuff. Well, this Adobe Audio Enhance is a free online tool that you put your file in, and then automatically increases the quality of the audio. The biggest mistake I see on personally created podcasts or at-home podcasts or even some professional podcasts is the mic quality sucks. And I don't blame them. Buying audio equipment sucks, and figuring out sucks even more. So what I do is I drag it through that software, and it just makes it sound somewhat more professional. It makes it pleasing to listen to. Those bassy, podcasty microphone sounds come into play. And it's super important for an at-home podcast, because not everyone is gonna have a crazy audio setup at their computer. You're gonna be talking to people that are just raw dogging their freaking, I don't like that term, but whatever. They're just gonna be using like their computer mic or their AirPods, and it's not gonna sound the greatest. And I don't blame them, because microphone equipment's expensive. And I also don't wanna not do a podcast with them, because they have good things to say. They're just trying to make it as easy for them as possible using what they're comfortable with. So give them that ease of use and use this enhancement tool for your listeners, and just make it a more pleasant listening experience. You'd be surprised how much that sets you apart. The next thing you're gonna need is some sort of an editing software. This is where I'm gonna be less of help, because I've used Adobe Premiere Pro for a lot of years now. So that's just what I use go-to for editing, but there's a lot of free editing softwares out there that you can go out and try. I'm not gonna recommend any, because I haven't tested out any other ones, but just look up free editing softwares and go from there. Or if you're really serious about this, Adobe Creative Suite's still super helpful, and I use it daily. So maybe look into getting the Adobe Creative Suite, which is all the products, for a monthly cost of around like $30 or $40. Now you've recorded your podcast, you've increased your audio quality, you've edited it. Wow, I'm slurring on my words. The next step is to upload it and distribute it. And you might think that you just post it on each platform individually, like you go to Spotify and post it on Spotify. No, and then you go to Apple and you post it on Apple. I mean, no, that's not how that works at all. There are distributors out there that you just drag your file in once and you connect it to all the different platforms, and then you upload it once and it uploads it to all the different platforms like Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, like Amazon. I mean, there's so many, but the main two are Apple and Spotify. The distributor that I use is a free one, and it is called Spotify for Podcasters, which was formerly called Anchor. Now it's called Spotify for Podcasters. You'd think it'd just be for Spotify. Well, it's not. It's not the best branding in my opinion, but it's just a distributing tool, so you can get your podcast on Apple and stuff with it too. The basic gist of it is that this is where I upload my file, this is where I type in the title of it, this is where I type in the description. You're gonna need to make an account there, you're gonna need to look up a separate YouTube video on how to use it, but that's the gist. And then once you get in there, you'll connect your Spotify for Podcasters, aka Anchor account, to your Apple Podcast key as well as your Spotify key, and then it'll all be connected. But like I said, look up another video. You'll appreciate doing that for yourself. Bonus tip, some people listen to it on YouTube. A lot of these distributors don't access it to, or don't connect to YouTube. So you'll have to upload the YouTube video on your own separate account. So upload it there too. You might be surprised how many extra views you'll get on there. And then bonus tip, you can upload full podcasts on Twitter now. You just have to have the premium version, so maybe look into that too. I don't personally do that, but I thought I'd give you that. Bonus tips aside, let's go to the last thing I use, and that is making short form content to support your long form podcast. What's cool about podcasts is it is the easiest way to get your face on a social platform every day. Now, going through a podcast and manually editing and making short form clips takes hours. But there are tools out there that reduce that speed. One of those tools is called Opus Clip. Opus Clip is an AI short form content generator for your podcast. You drag in the long form video and it clips it into all these relevant clips in your podcast, put captions on them. It's a beautiful thing. I upload hour clips in there every week, so about 4 hours a month, and it makes me about 10 to 20 clips. And I post those on all platforms daily. I post them to Instagram Reels, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, LinkedIn, Twitter, I mean everywhere. It's just nice. It's not the best looking quality content ever, but it is content, and content is king. So make a social account for your podcast on every platform, and then post that clip on every platform. It's the easiest way to just get like 10,000 extra impressions every month, and increases your chance of connecting with more viewers. Now, with that in mind, after 30 episodes of doing a podcast, I'm pleasantly surprised how slow building a personal brand podcast is. I mean, it is hard to get people to care about wanting to listen to an hour conversation every week, and I don't blame them. I don't listen to very many podcasts. That's why you just got to keep views and growing super fast out of your head. You're literally just doing it under the worst case terms. Worst case terms is you have a good conversation and you get to connect with your person. If you can do that and be satisfied and have fun, you're good to go. Podcast is a game of repetition and consistency. And the people that are focused on numbers are going to drop off. I mean, that's obvious. People that aren't focused on numbers, it's not okay having 0 view podcasts or 3 view podcasts or 10 views on their podcast. They're going to be in it forever. They might not find any sort of value from it for years, but they get to meet a ton of people through their conversations. They get to practice the discipline of posting content, and perhaps you might find a niche where it actually pays off. But You're not in it for that. I already said that like 10 times. Don't be in it for that. That is all the tools I use to upload my podcast. I hope this helps. If you have any like broad questions, I'd be happy to try to help you. It's a complex game, and you're gonna need to take a few hours to really figure it out, and it's gonna be confusing if you've never done anything like this before, but that's okay. It's all part of the game. You're looking to grow yourself and distribute yourself on social platforms, and I think that's great. Like I said, I'm Isaac Jarnigan. I post weekly YouTube content, weekly podcasts, post a weekly newsletter, post daily reels, every platform. I'd love to connect with you however you interact online. Just go to the bio below and take some time to check your boy out and say what's up. I'll say what's up back. It's great stuff. Yeah, appreciate you again. We'll see you next week. Peace, love, and tranquility, baby.